Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Fanatic Forum. I am your Fanatic and host, George Bueller. Oh, man, it has been a lovely week here. I'm loving the weather. Spring has sprung. We're almost in a little summer here, so I'm in short season, so that is the important thing here. Absolutely. So, and of course, I cannot do this here show here without my brother from another mother here, the other half of my domino, Mr. Seth Manhammer, who needs an adult apparently tonight.
Yeah, so Mr. Manhammer here, he decided to start indulging in the adult libations a little heavily earlier in the evening. And yeah, so his pour was a little heavier than he thought it should be. And this is still technically his first drink. I've just been trying to dilute it with my Coke since then.
I dig it.
And yeah, so woo. And I'm going to also apologize in advance too. It's like I've got the Seth's effed up history, but it's all in here, so you're just going to have to endure my rambling and make sense of it. But I'm pretty sure I can do it because I can hold court, especially when I'm drinking.
Yes, I'm looking very forward to tonight's effed up history here because if I'm not mistaken, we were talking about some Conan publishing history, perhaps.
Yeah. The title that I see in my head is El Sprag de Camp. Frederick Wortham of Sword and Sorcery.
Ooh, yeah. Yes.
And we're going to get into a bit of like fantasy publishing history and who El Sprag de Camp and Lynn Carter were, stuff like that. So yeah, we'll do a bit of a deep dive into that a little later on.
I can't wait, especially if you're a fantasy, especially a Conan fan of a certain age. El Sprag de Camp, basically, there are one of two very polarizing opinions you will have of this man.
Yeah.
The majority of them makes like the barbaric, the berserker rage starts to boil when the name El Sprag de Camp comes up, as far as my opinion goes of him. So, yes, I'm looking very forward to tonight here. But, of course, I got some new comic book reviews here. I don't know if you got any new reviews tonight. I know you had a couple of book reviews last week. So
I actually have a special reveal. And I want to talk about a midpoint review for a book that I'm currently enjoying.
Excellent.
So I can talk about that for a second. Yeah.
Okay.
I do have some remarks of a comic book myself that I was going to talk about. Let me pull up a graphic for this too.
Yeah, please.
So go right ahead, Georgia.
Sure, yeah. And then of course we're going to do a little bit of Roundup for Wrestlemania and a little bit of the Raw after Wrestlemania, which frankly I think may have been a more superior show than Wrestlemania. So,
I'm going to be completely honest. I did not watch 1 second of that Raw. I was not able to.
Dude, okay, it was good. We had a return. We had some NXT appearances. We had a couple of really legit good matches, and also we had another member of the Paul Heyman group here with
the New Dangerous Alliance. I did hear about that. Yeah. I kind of dig that idea.
Miss Michelle.
What's up, Michelle?
Hey. This is Fanatic. Hello, dearest.
Yeah, talk to your husband. He and I were making plans for potentially next Saturday that involve your participation if you would care to come with us. Or
yeah, because basically since it's Free Comic Book Day, Seth is going to come down to E-Town, and basically he wants to hang out a little bit and then have dinner when I get off work, because you basically said you wanted to hang out with Seth and you hadn't seen him in a while, so here you go. Ask
there you go.
Receive. And she says, "Ooh, yay!" So there you go. So cool. There's your answer, sir.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I told you it's going to be an easy answer there. So, let's talk wrestling here first. So,
okay.
Overall, what did you think of the whole show here?
Overall, I enjoyed it all for what it was. The main event for night 2 is disappointing. I was, we all discussed that, and it wasn't necessarily the result. It was the lead up to it, and we can kind of get into that later. And I've also heard some other things. Yeah,
I heard a big rumor
Uh,
myself.
yeah.
Yeah, that. I was the same way. I enjoyed, of course, the company a hell of a lot more than the show because we had a great time, boys hanging out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We always do.
Yeah.
It's always something special.
I mean, overall, it definitely was. Last year felt bigger than this year. I think. I think this year's main problem is we had like 2 weeks extra of build because normally it's earlier. They decided to go later this year, and I think that kind of killed some of the momentum.
Yeah, I agree there. And yeah, it didn't feel as epic as they usually do. Sometimes they almost feel too grandiose. Like that
Yeah,
one WrestleMania that was like almost like, 9 hours all in, like all total or whatever.
yeah. Was that like
It's
the last year they did the one night? And yeah,
Yeah. It wasn't 9 hours, but it was something like
it felt like it.
redonkulously long. Yeah.
Uh, but I will say, night one's main event with the triple threat was everything I wanted it to be. I saw the finish coming. We had talked about it, but it's still, when it happened, I was still jaw dropping. It was so awesome.
Oh yeah, it was as we said several times in my living room over and over again, it was cinema.
It
And
was,
it
yeah,
really was. It was great storytelling on Heyman's part, on Punk's part, on Roman's part, on Seth's part. Yeah, it
everybody, yeah.
was. Yeah, it was beautiful. It really was.
Night one definitely had some better matches. I think was a little bit better wrestling show. But of course, take away nothing from night two. The triple threat opener with the ladies was outstanding. Your 4-way for the Intercontinental belt was a really good match as well, and it ended the way it should have. Dominic has definitely earned that belt.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I know people were talking about the pop that he got, for that. And
Yeah.
there was yeah, he blew the roof off the place.
Oh, there's a big difference between like the go away heat that Mercedes Moné will get, where the crowd's booing her. We're like, we don't want to see you. Please stop appearing on our television, our wrestling shows. People in the WWE crowd, they boo at Dominic because he's a bad guy. And it's fun to boo at him, but
Right.
they also like him. So yeah,
Yeah.
that pops that all.
If you ever notice too, it's like if Dom needs to do something, like there are times when it's okay to boo Dom, and that's what you're supposed to do. But if
Yeah,
Dom needs to convey something in a promo or whatever, he does something physical to indicate to the audience that like they need to shut up for a second so he can say whatever it is, to tell him that it's not one of those times where you boo the shit out of him. You'll hate him for another reason in a minute.
yeah,
Right? Like, yeah. It's amazing how they do it. And I've said before multiple times, Dom is I have when he first showed up, I hated him. I thought it
yeah.
was, yeah, I just, nepotism. It was awful. And
Mm-hmm.
now it's like, oh, it's amazing. Yeah. He's one of the greatest heels of all time.
It's hard to imagine the company without him now.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah,
is.
it really is. It really, it almost is like there's, as much as he is Ray's kid, it's almost like Eddie's there again.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, he models a lot of his persona after Eddie, and of course, that gets more into the heel persona. Like he's doing that. Like I'm getting as far away from Rey Mysterio, and I'm going after Eddie Guerrero. Sort of thing like that. So yeah, but his look is modeled after Eddie. He's lying, cheating, and stealing, stuff like that. So yeah,
and it doesn't feel like they do. Well, number one, they never actually really they've mentioned his homages to him, but they've never tried to capitalize on making him use the gimmick as a
right.
legacy gimmick, which they've done in the past.
Oh
Which
yeah,
I'm kind of glad that they've stopped doing so much before. Like, it's like Natty, it's like, they don't hide that she's like part of the Hart family or whatever. It's like nothing like that. It's like not trying to use legacy on that, but like making like a a son inherit the father's gimmick,
yeah.
or something. So, or like Cody with the Stardust, where he was his brother's gimmick.
Oh, very much so.
And
Yeah. Well, when Nanny first came in the company, it was like her, when she, TJ, and Davey Jr. came in, they were definitely shoving the Hart stuff down there. But I think over time, she has definitely developed her own persona. And like we all know, she's Anvil's kid. She's part of the family, but she's her own thing now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. She's not just the girl in the Hart family anymore.
Right.
She's definitely her own thing. And of course, I think was it the Josh Barnett's Bloodsport over WrestleMania weekend? Dude, the match she had there was like it was a shoot fight. She had her hair all tied back and braided like she was Shayna Baszler and crap. And
oh
then,
damn! No, I didn't see that.
and yeah, that was pretty tight. And then after the match was over, she's kind of doing the walk around, and the NWA champion was in the crowd. And like the next night, she had a match against her because Natty was in the Crockett Cup, and so they did a little scrap with them at ringside where they're she did a little push thing like that. So basically, they were promoting an NWA show after the GCW show was over.
I was gonna say it's like the NWA Crockett Cup. The NWA that currently shows their shows on Twitter.
Yeah. Over WrestleMania weekend, Natty basically wrestled her first 2 matches outside of WWE, one for GCW and then one for NWA.
NWA, wow, that's an interesting move. That's an interesting.
Well, a lot of the wrestlers who weren't booked during WrestleMania weekend, that's their opportunity to do other stuff. And now they get the freedom to do that, where AJ can go hang out in Noah over in Japan for, a couple of months, or somebody, or, I think Karrion Kross did a thing with Bloodsport as well. So, yeah, people can go do indie shows. It's kind of every once in a while sort of thing. But, yeah, people can go do indie stuff now.
Yeah, but see, like the thing that's going to be super interesting to me is at one point or another, with the trajectory of how, and we've seen it multiple times with how the wrestling goes. It's like promotions ebb and flow, right?
Yeah.
So right now, remember 5 years ago, AEW was the hottest shit on the planet.
Sure.
And then now it's kind of like at a lower point, reception wise. And eventually, one of these indies is going to kind of up their game a little bit more.
Yeah.
And
or
kind
get
of
a TV deal or something.
Right. Or get a TV deal that WWE has worked with.
Yeah.
And there, it'll be interesting to see how the WWE behaves in that manner, whether or not they do a more business oriented thing to counter against something like that, like they do directly against AEW, as opposed to try and work with them. I guess my thing is when does WWE see them as competition?
Good point.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is this: I don't think they see them as competition. The only issue is like if the scent of money for the worker is far too greater than the scent of opportunity, because Tony's going to pay out the wazoo for them, but you're going to get way more opportunities to become a star in WWE.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, yeah, you're right, because they got a lot more deals because you can't. Yeah, you got to look at it like the cricket commercials, the with the Miz, or whatever. Maybe you're on a season of a reality show or something. Yeah, that's all extra money. You're right. Excuse me.
Or you're doing major motion pictures and sitcoms, baby.
Yeah. That is one thing that I always wish the WWE would have leaned more into, is the WWE studio stuff.
And no, the only problem is they only had one hit, and the one hit they had was a movie they bought for distribution rights, and it had no wrestlers in it. You want to know what that movie was?
What was it?
The Call, with Halle Berry, where she's playing a 911 operator.
Oh.
And yeah, it's a thriller where she's playing a 911 operator, and that movie was a box office smash. Came out of nowhere. It was a well done movie, good thriller, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, WWE had nothing to do with the making of it. There's no wrestlers in the movie whatsoever. But yeah, they released it, and it was literally their own. It was like that, and the original See No Evil were literally their only box office successes.
I gotta disagree there. The Marine was a success,
but See No Evil made more than the Marine did.
Really?
I think it did. I think it did. Maybe I may be wrong.
Hold on. We're gonna consult the Google on that one.
Yes,
I'm defending John Cena a little harder than I think I should be right now.
Was he in the movie? Because I can't see him. It was weird because he did a couple of those movies, and there's no star in it. But then you get to the other movies, The Miz is in there. I saw The Miz.
I would have loved if they would have done that. Somebody joked that when there was the Mizdow gimmick going on, that if there was the Marine 4, but there's an alternate cut where it's just the Damian Sandow doing the stunts.
Did there was there's like two 12 rounds movies because you have one with Randy Orton and one with Moxley.
Yeah. 12 rounds, 3 lockdown.
Okay,
I have all 3 of the 12 rounds movies on my
I've heard
shelf
they're
back
actually
here.
not bad.
They're
I've heard that
not really. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to defend the first 12 rounds a little bit before I prove you wrong here with the movie grosses.
Mhm.
But the first 12 rounds with John Cena, I'm going to see how much that grossed. But while I'm talking about it, that is a Rennie Harlan classic if it would have come out in 1988. That would have been
Really?
one of those movies that you would have talked to, that you would have rented at the video store 100 times because it was just that kind of awesome action.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. Well, I'm gonna see how much. And okay, hold on. No, just tell me.
Yeah, I forgot John Cena was in the first 12 rounds. Then Randy Orton was in number 2, and then Moxley was in number 3. Okay.
Yeah. And 3, the second one was actually kind of the worst one in my opinion. The third one with Moxley was actually kind of fun in a really weird, cheesy knockoff Die Hard kind of way.
Okay.
Because he's the cop that's coming back off suspension because I think he was a little too rough or something like that. And he's
Yeah.
got 12 rounds in the clip. And
See, I could see Moxley doing like a crappy exploitation action film and it being good.
Yeah.
I could see him getting the assignment more than anybody else.
Yeah. And there was one too that I was super excited to watch. My mom and I both were. It was Dolph Ziggler, and he played some kind of government agent, and he was chasing terrorists through a WWE show. And the trailer made it look like, you remember that Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Sudden Death?
Oh yeah,
Where
yeah.
Van Damme's up in the rafters during the hockey game and fighting
Yeah.
terrorists and shit.
Yeah, there's a bomb
That's
going off. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they made this movie look like, because Ziggler's backstage and he's trying to run by the terrorists and bumps into Rusev and but he's not Dolph Ziggler, he's the cop or whatever. Yeah, got so excited. That's 10 minutes in the movie, the first 10 minutes. The rest of it's some kind of generic horse shit. And I was like, damn it. It wasn't even it wasn't even that good after that. It was that was the best part of the movie, and you just totally wasted it. But anyway, the gross of the movies. I have no idea what originally started this tangent that we were off on, by the way.
Which made more money, the first Marine film or See No Evil?
Okay, yeah, that's what I got. So the Marine. Let's start with See No Evil. See No Evil grossed 18.8 million against a budget of 8. So
Okay.
Hollywood, it was a hit. Unequivocally, it was a hit.
Yeah, it made some money.
The Marine grossed $20 million.
Oh, okay, I was way wrong on there. All right.
Yeah, I hold up. I do not see how much the budget was though, because 8 million was for See No Evil, and the Marine. I forgot the movie title for a second. I am so sorry. This is kind of 15 million. Okay, so. Okay. All right, so I gotta concede that one to you. Even though it did earn more, technically it was not.
It had a larger budget.
Yeah, but it had a larger budget to account for.
That's the difference between action films and horror films, man. You could always get away with a lower budget horror movie than you can action, because you have to have explosions and shit. And explosions cost money.
Touche, my friend. Touche.
Fire costs money. Blood does not cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So.
Oh, so
Bill!
There, Bill's here.
Revenge of the Seth. I mean Sith. You enjoyed. I remember the first time I saw Revenge of the Sith, it was actually with George.
That's right.
And, we went to the midnight release of that and stayed up way too late and went to Steak and Shake afterwards and talked about it. And then we were kind of confused about how we felt. And,
yeah, it's a little conflicted. Yeah, there were some.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, but then in hindsight, I still look back at it as probably my favorite of the new trilogy.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. Have you noticed that it's that weird phenomenon where there's like the people that are like a generation younger than us that really appreciate the Phantom Menace?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
They love that prequel trilogy because that's the thing. That's the Star Wars. That and the Clone Wars cartoon. That's the stuff they grew up on. So that stuff is as sacred as the original trilogy is to us.
yeah.
So yeah. So
Yeah, I find it very interesting that there's that like there's
I do
that
too.
divide
Yeah.
with the fans. And I love
But
the Clone Wars, by the way.
oh yeah, Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely got better as it went on, especially like season 4 on. But yeah, and Rebels the same way. Rebels got better.
Oh
As
yeah,
it
yeah,
went on
yeah.
as well.
To me, Star Wars has always been more fun when you get to see the people that like have to live in the universe where there's space magic and laser swords. You
Yep.
know, like what do they do? You know, when their planet can just randomly explode.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, like
it's like okay, yeah, you've got all the pirates, the adventurers, and the pilots, and yeah, your space wizards and all that kind of shit. But like, what about the dude that like runs a restaurant? What about the barber? You know, what about like
yeah,
sanitation workers and crap like that? You know,
yeah.
yeah. Or like Dante or Randall said in Clerks, like, what about like all the contractors that work
Yeah,
in
yeah,
restaurants?
yeah.
Like, it's just
Yeah,
a job, a government job, and they get blown up for it.
yeah. And it's like and say what you will about the new Star Wars stuff, they do kind of touch on a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the Star Wars has been very pulpy up to a point. Like
Yeah.
once they have to start laying down more harder lore and like, you know, you have to as much as I hate that they killed the expanded universe, at least they're trying to build something canonical to this era, you know.
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny how originally it's like, yeah, they don't build, they're doing this their universe, but it's they're we denying the expanded universe that the Dark Horse created and whatever else. But then like when there's certain points of like, oh, we like that, and so they'll borrow little
Yeah,
bit there.
yeah. Like Thawne showing back up, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah, they
yeah.
don't have anything else from Timothy Zahn going on there. But you know what? We like Thrawn, and well, he was in Rebels and Clone Wars. Let's put Thrawn in here. I would like
Yeah.
Thrawn. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear. Real quick though, since you didn't get to watch the Raw after Mania, we already had Becky Lynch do her heel turn. Like basically, literally the next night, she and Lyra Valkyria, who won the tag belts at WrestleMania, lost them once again to Liv and Raquel. And almost as soon as they lose the belts, Becky turns on Lyra. So now we've got our feud for the Intercontinental Champion. It only took a mere 24 hours.
Okay.
It felt a little rushed.
Yeah, fair.
The big news, of course, Rusev returning. And
I
basically,
did hear about that, yeah.
yeah, we had a tag match that was going to happen, and it was like the New Day, and I can't remember who else it was. Oh, it's Otis and Tozawa. And so New Day bolt as soon as Rusev shows up, and then Rusev basically squash Otis and Tozawa. And they do look kind of like at first a little bit of a face off with him and Otis, but then like Rusev is like meaner and badder than Otis, and so he takes him down.
Yeah.
And of course, we get we had both appearance of Stephanie Vacour and Julia, and then I think we actually had a match between Io Sky or Shirai, whatever. No, Sky, and Stephanie Vacour. So basically, Stephanie got a match on Raw. And then the big news, of course, is that Braun Breaker has now joined forces with Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. So,
in the new Dangerous Alliance.
Yep. And there's a heavy rumor that we have one more member to come. And I've heard two things. I've heard Becky Lynch, because she just turned heel, and so she can team with her husband for the first time and be a part of this, to be the female heel in this group. The other is basically doing a little bit of reform, but Austin Theory joining this group here.
Interesting.
And I wouldn't be opposed to Austin Theory in there because definitely he's a talented fellow that needs some reform and he gets the hell away from Grayson Waller, because Grayson Waller's just a joke. And Theory's like he's got promo skills. He's a good looking dude. He's got ring skills. He's got a great physique. Vince loved him for whatever reason. And when Vince left, this kid's get buried. So,
yeah.
So those are the two leading things. So whether or not any of those are going to be true remains to be seen. So there you go.
Okay.
All right. Well, now some comic book reviews here for you. And I got some cool stuff here.
All right. Are we going to play our How Many Batmans?
Well, we do have one DC offering, so there is the potential of one Batman book here.
I'm going to say I'm going to hedge my bet. This is like if we were playing poker, this is me straddling the button.
I don't know what that means, but go ahead.
if I'm remembering my terminology right, like you typically bet like after you get to look at your cards,
Yes.
but straddling the button is just like no matter where like if the blind is $2, like if everybody you have $2 to play, and like you're the dealer, but it's like like my bet's not for like 2 more turns or whatever. I can just be like, the hell with it, I'm straddling the button, I'm putting 5 on it, and then that means before the cards come out, it's just $5 to play at all. So yeah, people can either bet and go along with that before seeing the cards, or just like fold out of it. Most people fold out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a gambler or whatnot, so for me, I got 5 on it means something entirely different. So
fair. I know far too much about the World Series of Poker than I really should.
You do. You are a talented card shark there. That's for sure. So
I do enjoy it. It is one of my vices that I get to indulge with from time to time with Bill and our crew down on Bowling Green. And
I visited a casino a couple of times. We were touring around some when Michelle went to Vegas for a honeymoon, and then I've been to Caesars or wherever the Indiana casino is like once or twice. So, but yeah, I'm not a gambler or card player, so I don't know what the hell I'm doing there. But no. I like the pretty lights.
Well, if you ever want to sit in a garage sometime and hang out with us for a couple of hours while a bunch of people drink and smoke, then and we play cards and curse at each other from time to time. It's a friendly table, but
that sounds like a jam. I mean, I don't know shit about cards, but yeah, I like everything else you talked about. So there you go.
yeah. Well, we won't be too savage on you at first.
So you guys bet with pennies, right?
Yeah. No, we typically start with a $20 buy-in, and then there's like or 20 or 25, and then you can like have up to two $20 re-ups or something like that. Yeah. So there's a cap on how much. Most people never make that much or never make it to that much, but yeah.
If that is your rich Rob Lynn, man. All right. So our first Marvel offering here, actually our only Marvel offering here, the crossover you guys have been waiting for, Predator versus Spider-Man. Now, this is the Pepe Larraz B cover here, which we are apparently already sold out of at the store. We've only got A covers and some incentives left over. But of course, this is now the 3rd volume of the Predator versus series. We've had versus Wolverine, versus Black Panther. Now we got versus Spidey. I am shocked at the level of gore at this. Like, this should have been one of the Red Band series, because the Predator we're dealing with is a different kind. There's basically has been dubbed Skinner because he likes to do that. So everybody's thinking it's some kind of crazy serial killer. We have not put on our bingo card yet, alien from another world who enjoys hunting.
Yeah.
So at this point, we think we're dealing with a serial killer. So we've seen little glimpses, but Spidey has not come across who he's dealing with just yet. So we haven't had our first confrontation yet, but the setup is great, very pulpy, feels very much like a little bit of the original Dark Horse Concrete Jungle series, where we get Schwarzenegger's brother Schaefer, who's in Los Angeles, and then that series was kind of a bit taken and twisted where else to the Danny Glover Predator 2. So has a little bit of feel of both of those.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I weirdly enough, I actually reread Predator versus Wolverine not too long back. You picked that up for me. Yeah, because that was such a fun series. Because that Predator Badlands trailer had me really craving some Predator stuff, and that looks so cool.
Speaking of that trailer, so Josh, who works the shop with me, he and I were talking because Josh is a big Predator fan like myself. The one issue we've got with the young Predator, I believe his name is Deck in the movie, so it's first time we get a protagonist of a Yacha in the movie. It's his hairline. So traditionally, the hair and the dreads usually start at the crown and go down, where you got that bald spot thing, and he's got like a full head of hair that's right here. So it looks weird. It makes him look a little more human. But then we're aware of the fact, like, okay, he's a youngling. He's still very young. So maybe receding hairline starts early for predators. I don't know. So, but just the full head of hair looks weird on it. That was the only thing. But other than that, it looks cool. I like. Was it Elle Fanning or Dakota Fanning that's else on the movie? She's playing.
I think it's Elle Fanning. Fanning. Yeah,
because she's playing the Utani Wayland Corporation android. So yeah, a very specific breed of android.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing that they kind of upset me is somebody online was complaining. Well, not really upset me, but it was a criticism that I kind of scoffed at. Was the complaint about you remember the part in the trailer where they kind of have like those weird little laser swords or laser knives that they're fighting with? It's like, it seems weird the Predator having superior technology and blah 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 to what they're having. And it's like, well, it's like, no, the technology always there was always more of an even or a match, to what they had, like it wasn't necessarily superior technology because it's like Danny Glover had grenade launchers and shit like that, but the Predator had his explosive, thing too. So it's like they were comparable, right? So it's like, but we never saw the extent of the Predator arsenal is what I'm trying to get to ultimately. Yeah. So it's like, we don't know what kind of futuristic stuff that the Predators even have at their disposal that they just haven't even unleashed yet, Yeah.
Well, they do have space travel. They do have infrared vision that, in 1987 with, Dutch and his, platoon of guys weren't armed with. He also had the laser cannon thing and a personal nuclear device. So there's that. We see a lot more weaponry in Predator 2. We see a lot more weaponry in Predators. That's the Adrian Brody one. So we see a little bit of evolution in the Predator, the other Shane Black one, which I'm kind of a little iffy on. I don't know about
that one I wasn't so hot on. I would be real interested to see the original cut of that. Because apparently,
yeah. That's for me. Outside of the Aliens versus Predator 2 movies, that's my only low point in the franchise. Because I don't care if anybody says I love the Adrian Brody Predator one, and then of course everybody agrees that Prey is just another modern classic.
Oh yeah, Prey is amazing. Yeah. Prey is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. But have you seen the trailer yet for Killer of Killers yet?
No. I didn't know that was out yet. Okay.
It's an anime. It's not out just yet. It's an animated.
The trailer. Yeah, I didn't know the trailer was out. Yeah.
Yeah, the trailer's out. Yeah, it's an animated anthology. It's going to be on Hulu. And basically, I saw scenes of an ancient Norse village versus Predator, samurai versus Predator, and then World War II pilots versus Predator pilots. The animation looks really good. Yeah. And it's also Dan Trachtenberg is behind this, who did Prey, who's also behind Badlands, and who's also promising in the future he wants to do an Aliens versus Predator, and quote unquote, I want to do it the right way.
Yeah, I did hear it. I did see something him saying something along those lines too.
Yeah. And the right way, ladies and gentlemen, means we probably base our story as close as we can to the original Dark Horse Aliens versus Predator, which was an outstanding story, where you get humans on another planet, and we've been terraforming on there for a while, and then we get to a generation where we get this sun weird thing where it gets a little hotter. Oh, we found out the whole planet was actually a hunting ground for predators. Like each season, they were breeding aliens, and they deposit them on this planet, and then the younglings would hop on the planet there and hunt xenomorphs. Oh, and there's humans on here too? Well, let's just add them to the hunt.
Yeah, that's just extra.
You don't need to change anything else. You have an alien world. You have futuristic human technology, and then you have predators and aliens doing their alien and predator things. What else do you need? We don't need to put this. That's what pissed me off so much about the first Aliens versus Predator being in the modern day. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Okay, it works for the predators, or the Yacho, if you want to call them. But the xenomorphs, we don't discover them until the freaking 23rd century.
Yeah.
It's no, the first time was when the Nostromo with Sigourney Weaver's crew and Kane and friggin' Tom Skerritt and all them. That's our first human contact with the xenomorphs.
Actually, I'm going to push back on that.
Oh, with the Prometheus stuff.
Well, no, not even necessarily that, because and this is established in the first Alien movie. Wayland Yutani knew that something was out there, right?
Oh, okay.
And because Ash confirms it, that the crew, that's the whole point of the crew expendable thing.
True.
And because they were originally sent there to intentionally run into that beacon and figure out what was there and bring something of it back. So
Okay. So they
the
knew something
ultimate,
was there. They just didn't know what.
right, and it was ultimately one of those questions that got overshadowed by stuff like the space jockey, and like the beauty part about Alien is the mysteries upon the mysteries that are just like,
True.
yeah, it's very the Dark Souls of movies, where there's so much of the story that's being told in the background as well as in the foreground, with just
Okay.
like the monster on the ship,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and that's not taking into consideration any of the other movies, just Alien as itself,
Right. Right. Okay.
But yeah,
So,
I am
okay,
so sorry, I'm rambling the hell on tonight.
no,
But
you're good though. I welcome that stuff. What are you talking about? But no, I do get your point though. Yeah, basically there may have been another encounter, but we didn't know what we encountered. But basically, the Nostromo was the first documented encounter.
right, yeah.
So I will caveat and say that's the first documented encounter. It may obviously with Prometheus and the movie that followed Prometheus, which I can't remember what that one was called.
Alien Covenant.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Had a
And
couple
then
of good scenes, but yeah.
Romulus was really good though. I gotta say that.
Romulus is awesome, but Romulus takes place after the first Alien, so it's basically it's after our first documented encounter, even though that encounter hasn't been documented yet. Because
right.
Here's your timeline, folks. So we have our documented encounter with the Nostromo, but that documentation doesn't happen until 20 years later. Yeah, Whale Nutani, market quality.
Yeah, the Corporation of America. Anyway, I'm sorry to continue to derail your stuff. Your second comic review of the night.
Absolute Martian Manhunter #2.
Ooh, that looks trippy. I like that.
Dude, the art in this is trippy. The amount of reinvention we have seen with Martian Manhunter, like I have never regularly been excited or picked up a Martian Manhunter, but I always had love for the character, respect for the character. But it's like, this is weird. It's trippy. This feels like when DC takes chances and those chances land, and we get things like Sandman and we get things like Preacher and stuff like that. It's like it's weird shit, and they're taking chances, and it's coming off great.
That's good to hear. I love that.
Yeah. So, Javier Rodriguez, his art in this movie or in this series has just been outstanding. It's a very trippy series. Basically, the presence of the Martian Manhunter is essentially taking over Federal Agent John Jones, but it's a beneficent takeover. Like this is all beneficial and helping out, but we're still, the consciousness wants to take over and things like that. But we finally started introducing the White Martians, and the White Martians are essentially kind of like another force of bad influence, maybe even would be considered demonic influence, sort of thing like that. So or sort of the devil made me do it, but it wasn't the devil, it was a White Martian, sort of thing like that. So yeah, Jesus Comp's the writer on this one here, but it's a trippy book, but God, I love it.
Nice.
We got 3 indies here, so no Batman book this week.
Oh, okay. Wow, I would have lost that one. Yeah, because I would have sworn it was a Batman team up book. Damn it. Okay.
No. Speaking, good segue there. So Grant Morrison has announced that they are doing a new miniseries for DC. Grant is at the point in their career where they can do whatever the hell they want to, because they're Grant Morrison, right?
Right.
So when a project or an idea strikes their fancy, boom, let's do it. Also, if they get the chance to work with Frank Quitely once again, we're also going to do that as well.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So it's going to be a Batman team up book. It's not with Superman. It's apparently they haven't revealed who he's teaming up with, but apparently it's a weird or an obscure team up. But it was something that basically that sparked Grant Morrison's fancy, and to me that says I'm in. Because
Grant, man, okay, it's like some of my favorite comics are Grant Morrison stuff, and have you ever read We Three?
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, as an animal guy, like, oh, that one's brutal but beautiful. Yeah, it's one of the best comics I've ever read. One of my other favorites of his is Seven Soldiers. And we talked about that. Yeah, it was. Yeah, if you're not familiar with Seven Soldiers, it was a 30-issue series broken into 2 end cap issues, a 0 and a 1. That was at the beginning and the end, but in between you had 4, or was it 4 or 6? Or no, it was 7 miniseries. Yeah, it was 7, 1 book for each character. But you had, there was like 4, however it was like 30 issues altogether. There was like the Bulleteer, Frankenstein agent, or Frankenstein, Clarion the Witch Boy,
Shining Knight had one too, didn't he?
Shining Knight had one, yeah. But it was an amazing story that like you could read the individual issues of like the Bulleteer 1 through 4 and get a whole piece of the story and have like a full-fledged experience.
Yeah.
But then like if you read them as like they're coming out, and it's like you read like Bulleteer number 1, then you start to see as like events start to happen between each other. Like eventually, like these characters never meet. Like that's the whole point of it, because it's like there's this whole like it actually leads into Final Crisis. Weirdly enough, it does, because this is one of the events that leads into Final Crisis. But the whole deal is that with the the people keep attacking the Justice League because they are like the biggest the biggest defenders of Earth, and they're the 7 of them. And so it's like that's this prophecy that's foretold about these people. And but so it's like now there's this other group that's trying to keep and protect the separate, or this new separate group of 7. Manhattan Guardian was another one. Yeah, that's the and the Newsboy Legion. They reinvented, Grant Morrison reinvented that, and it was really cool. But yeah, oh man. Yeah, Shining Knight was hella good too. Especially when you find out that like he's running around and like he falls, and then you find out like 3 issues in that I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not even, because that's a hell of a reveal.
I've got a couple of regulars that are always looking for Grant Morrison's run of 7 Soldiers. I'm like, I know, guys, I don't have any of it right now, but it's like I know you're looking for it. We're always keeping an eye out. So
I have a full run of it. V, what's up?
V!
How you doing? Woo! Yeah, I gotta get a couple of them from the other main. Yep, there we go.
Best podcast. Yeah, Seth is returning your Wolfpack salutes, or I'm sorry, your Bullet Club salutes.
Yeah, Bullet Club salutes. Yeah.
Yes, even from WrestleMania weekend. So yes, sir. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, V.
Yes. All right. So a couple of our indie offerings here. One you will definitely appreciate: G.I. Joe number 6 from the Energon.
G.I. Joe.
So last issue, we got our first face-to-face meeting between Duke and Cobra Commander. Now this issue, they gon' fight.
Ooh.
But when I say that's not the coolest thing that happens in this book, I would be telling you the truth, because there is a great surprise at the end of this book. I don't even want to spoil or reveal anything close to what it is, but matter of fact, the 1 in 50 issue kind of spoils it, because it's technically the spoiler cover. So if you decide you want to spend $49 on a comic book, then
I ain't spending $49 to get spoiled.
But yeah, so but the 1 in 50 spoils it. But yeah, something we've been waiting for happens.
They finally reveal that the Baroness is Zartan.
Not that. Something else.
But it does happen this issue. That's the other big thing, right?
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. See, this is a long-running dispute that Seth is convinced that the Baroness in the new G.I. Joe comic is Zartan in disguise. That it's not actually Duke's new girlfriend. Eventually, they're not yet, but they're eventually going to hook up. No, he's convinced that it's going to be it's
going to be Zartan, because see, that's part of the deal. Like Zartan's seducing Duke. And then like the first night that they're really kind of like alone together and everything, and it's like about chicka wow time, and then like the Baroness is gonna be like, surprise, bitch, I'm Zartan.
It's like a Dr. Frankenfurter with Brad kind of situation where it's like, oh,
yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
realize
yeah.
your last name was Wang.
Yeah. It's the ultimate swerve. Like you remember in the Jackal with Bruce Willis
Yes, I
when
do.
he's like, he's trying to like he's trying to like get closer to the target that he's going to assassinate, and he's in the gay bar, and then like he's just so casual and just leans over and kisses the dude and like does it, and it was like Bruce Willis is a hell of an actor, man. Or was a hell of an actor. Still
Dude,
is, I guess. Yeah.
Jackal is an underrated movie.
It really is, yeah.
And matter of fact, Peacock did a 3-episode remake of the original Day of the Jackal, and using British actor, red-haired dude in the role.
Rupert Grint.
Yes. No, not him.
Oh, I was taking.
No, it wasn't Rupert Grint, but it's some other dude. Oh, well, the guy that played Stephen Hawking, that red-haired Brit guy.
Oh, I don't know.
That dude, not Donald Gleason, but there's like 3
Harry Styles.
No, he's not a redhead. There's like 3 British redheaded actors out there right now. But anyway, that dude does it. That's a good series too. So, but that more takes from the original 70s Day of the Jackal than it does the 90s remake. But still, all are well worth your time.
Okay. Yeah.
Another image. Actually, all 3 of these are image for my indie stuff here. I'm normally not a Spawn fan, but I've been enjoying the Deadly Tales of the Gunslinger. That's been a lot of fun because you get Gunslinger Spawn again. There's 2 Gunslinger Spawn series going right now, but the Deadly Gunslinger is kind of more of an origin series. Yeah. But another Medieval Spawn.
Medieval Spawn. Oh, I love Medieval Spawn.
Dude, this is a fun first issue. Like, we don't worry about mythology or an origin. We just get down to brass tacks. Medieval Spawn, he's got his posse of people. They're demon hunters. They don't work necessarily for a king or for anything else. They just kind of go out there and do the good work. But it sets up a larger story at large because we take on a young man whose village has been decimated by demons. He was the only survivor. He helps out, but I kind of realized that maybe Medieval Spawn's greatest mistake was taking this kid in and training him.
Oh.
Yeah, so setting up some big stuff going in there.
Okay, as a dark fantasy fan, can you grab me one of them? I want a Medieval Spawn.
Yes, sir. I will gladly grab you one. Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, you already got me those, but yeah, I got you a new Bug Wars this week. Bug Wars is really good, and then a new Solomon Kane as well. So you'll be getting a triple threat fantasy here.
Yeah.
And last but not least here, a book I initially had not grabbed, but I heard a little buzz on it. I read the first issue, and I'm all in here. For anybody that's a Dukes of Hazzard fan that says, you know what, I don't like these white guys doing the thing. I really wish we could just have a Bigfoot doing the whole thing. I offer you Moonshine Bigfoot.
Well, wow.
Yeah. So basically, this young Bigfoot was rescued by apparently some moonshiners back in the day when he was a young pup, and his parents were on the run from Bigfoot hunters. He basically learned the ways of the moonshiners, grew up. He's got his hippie girlfriend who you would think is kind of like maybe a spaz. No, she's like really super smart. Also, Moonshine Bigfoot is apparently a really good chef too. So, they just talk basically while he's running from the cops who are imbeciles. They just talk about what they're going to be making for dinner later that night.
Yeah.
Then also you get some Bigfoot hunters who are also equally imbeciles going after him. And then these guys in the suits are some weird kind of kaiju hunters here who may also be imbeciles. So basically the fun thing is that you got Moonshine Bigfoot being chased by 3 groups of idiots who all went him for various reasons, and he easily avoids them. So it's definitely like it's kaiju, cryptozoic Dukes of Hazzard.
That sounds amazing.
It is a hoot. Zach Howard does the main art and the writing, and of course assistance here by his other team here. But yeah, this is a hoot.
George,
it's a 4-issue miniseries, and yeah, like it's yeah. You want to get you one of them too?
Yes, please. Yeah. I might as well do that whole series too.
Yep.
Yeah,
See,
because Medieval Spawn, is that an ongoing or is that a mini?
as far as I know, it's going to be an ongoing. I'm not sure how many issues it's planned for, but it's supposed to be an ongoing. But at least I'll give you the
Okay.
first issue. You see what you think about that one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. See, that's what I love about the new comic reviews. Eventually, you find something like, oh, that's pretty cool. We get that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always be like, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be good. And then I think I end up buying more stuff eventually. Yeah.
My pitch for Moonshine Bigfoot, very similar to what I just told you. Won a lot of other people over also.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's another interesting book too. I should give some honorable mention to. It was one we got late. We should have got it like 3 weeks ago, and we've just now got the 8 covers for it. But Oni Press has a new book called Plague House. That is about a group of paranormal investigators investigating a house that's supposedly haunted. While they have some people who actually are actual psychics, they are traditionally used to these houses are not actually having anything in there. Unfortunately, this particular house is not clear. It's actually got some shit in it, and these people are going to be in for a ride.
Kenzie, go settle down. Go on. Go on. No, I'm sorry to interrupt. This has been driving me nuts for like 20 minutes now. Like they hate it whenever I'm up here for some reason, because as far as they're concerned, I'm just talking to nothing. Because
Yes,
they
yeah.
don't know what I'm doing. So it's like Kenzie's very concerned. So every 2 seconds, I've got this dog who's like, like right next to me, and I'm trying to like be casual and cool, and I'm like, yes, honey, it's okay. So it's like if you see me kind of moving or whatever, I'm most likely petting a dog. I'm not just like fondling myself on like off of camera.
No, you're good.
I'm more
It took a good
civilized than that. But
it took a good 6 to 9 months for my kitties to realize that I was talking to the TV people and not them, and to not freak out, because it used to be like all 3 of them would want to appear on camera to see what was going on here, what I was doing here, and then they've all eventually gotten bored with it to the point where like, yeah, they're not even in the same room with me anymore. So
right, yeah, it just becomes routine.
yeah, so like they're used to daddy talking to something, and they don't care or don't want to say. As long as there's no people here, they're fine with that. So
right, yeah.
all right, sir. So now for our other topic du jour, it is your platform, sir, with our the latest installment of Effed Up History.
Yes. Well, no, actually, real quick, I just wanted to
Oh
say,
your reviews. Yes,
I managed to, I picked up a book this week. I haven't read it yet,
Oh.
but it's a book you might be familiar with it. It's a very popular book, but it completes a collection. Okay, and you're not going to believe I don't already own a copy of this, but Dune in paperback.
Ooh.
Have you read this?
I've read the original 3 that Herbert did.
Okay. So I was actually kind of interested. I started listening to the audiobook for it, and it's kind of a weird audiobook because it tries to be unabridged, but
Yeah.
they take parts of like a cast recording and use it for dialogue, but then there's other parts that like they didn't record that way. So like they're just narrated by the regular guy. And so I was like, yeah, I just kind of want to read the OG book.
Yeah.
But and if you'll indulge me for just a few minutes, this might take about 10 or 15 minutes.
Please,
But
yeah.
I wanted to show you my entire Frank Herbert collection, as the volumes that I've collected over the years, the essential library of Frank Herbert, if you were, one of the most
Yes.
influential writers of science fiction of all time. It's like Dune has influenced the world. We can't argue that. But
Absolutely.
it's like some of these editions are very pricey and popular.
Sure.
But again, revealing the essential Dune, the essential Frank Herbert library, the only books that you'll need to have a complete Frank Herbert collection of essential works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Come at me, haters. No.
I'm
sorry. No, I in one of my discords, I actually stole that joke from someone else. I was like, yeah, I picked up a copy of Dune while I was out. And he was like, oh, the original, the book. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, Oh wow, you completed your Frank Herbert library.
Yeah, Dune's thick, and not in like length of book, as in like there's a lot of stuff you got to get past. And as the original trilogy goes on, especially when you get to God Emperor Dune, which is the third one, Frank gets into some weird religious stuff, and I think also he may have been taking some LSD at that time, or may have been experimenting with that. I can't say that for sure, but yeah, it gets real weird. So I would almost kind of just recommend it's like just kind of just watch all the film adaptations. You kind of get a better swath.
See, okay, I'm gonna be like, I've kind of hated the films. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
not been a fan of them. Like the newest ones are okay, they're tolerable, but they're
Yep.
not movies that like I try and go back and revisit. I did watch the first one a second time before I watched the
No,
second part. But yeah,
no.
like
I've seen the David Lynch one multiple times.
yeah. And see, people have tried to get me to watch that one, and that is there are a couple of David Lynch films I just can't do. Like
Sure.
they just don't jive with me, and Dune is one of them. Like it has just never clicked with me. And maybe it's just me. Like that's why I'm trying. That's why I'm ultimately going to try and read the book,
Yeah.
is because or really get into it, is because like I'm challenging myself with more complex books and more heavy books, like especially with the Malazan series, of trying to keep track of things and
Sure.
like
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it's like I think I'm up for the challenge, because it's like I read House of Leaves, so it's like I can read anything. Have you heard of that one, or do you know what that one?
I've never read it, but I've heard of it. Yes, heard
Yeah,
it.
it's like I really enjoy it, but it's like it's this weird book that's like the words are all printed weird, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's like you have to like hold it to a mirror sometimes, or like read footnotes to understand parts of it, and it's like three stories going on at the same time, but like it's like ultimately I feel like I got the story out of it, so it's
Yeah.
like I'm not like so it's like I feel like I just want to at least try and hit some of these more dense books that I've avoided before.
Sure.
Yeah.
I dig that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I will be interested to see once you finish it, and then if you get to Children of Dune, and then if you can even stomach God Emperor Dune. But yeah, it's thick.
Yeah, I've heard it gets really, really weird. And this might be an ongoing process though, because it's like I don't expect to read like multiple Dune books at once. Like I'm trying to like space out my reading as
Sure.
it
Yeah.
is. Like I think I've burnt myself out on Joe Hill right now. Because like
Wow.
I
But you've
read
done a
Heart
lot
Shaped,
though.
yeah, I read Heart Shaped Box, I read Nosferatu, which I thought both of them were incredible.
Yeah.
Read some of his short story collections, and then started trying to do The Fireman.
Okay.
And the first like I was listening to it as an audiobook. The first 4 hours of The Fireman are really, really good. Like they're
Yeah.
really like, you're interested in everything. And Kate Mulgrew, who Captain Janeway from Star Trek Voyager, she does the narration on it. She's fantastic,
Nice.
right? Yeah, it's great.
Nice.
Yeah, but then like after a while, it just starts to kind of like, okay, when's something else gonna happen? Let's go. Come on. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. So yeah, I'm gonna put that one off to the side for a while. I may come back to that one. But yeah,
Okay.
it's yeah. Uh Seth's book
Nice.
report.
Yay. And then you said you had a comic review or something like that.
Oh yeah. Thank you. That reminds me. Yeah, I got it pulled up right here. This one I was able to find on Hoopla, which you should be able to too. So if you are friendly with your local library, then you can also enjoy this one for free. But this is a French comic called Black Sad.
I've
And
heard of this.
yes, it is. Okay, so imagine hard boiled detective fiction and just like straight out of the pulps with beautiful artwork,
Yeah.
and like the stories are just as dark, I mean, but the characters are all animals, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's like, but they're not like necessarily like, there's not necessarily an animal caste system or anything with it. Like it just depends on like the personality of the character of
Yeah.
whatever it needs to be. And
Yeah.
but
It's
yeah,
not cute, not cutesy stuff either.
yeah, no, it's not cutesy stuff at all. And
No. No.
but
No.
yeah,
No.
it's like
Yeah.
the artwork in this is beautiful, and it's like but it's very adult.
Yeah.
There's graphic violence, there's nudity, but it's like yeah, it's pulpy noir stories. This collection has 5 stories. I think there's like 3 or 4 more out, that are
Okay.
after that. But yeah, it's definitely check them out if you can on Hoopla. And if you're into like those old hard boiled pulp style comic stories, definitely you owe it to yourself to check these out because this guy, he really does something special with it. I believe, it's like I was really impressed with this, and I'm definitely going to check out the rest of them.
Oh, V says there was a Black Sad Under the Skin video game in
Yes,
2019.
yes. V is correct. Yeah, it's one of the. I believe it's like I don't know if Telltale was the ones that made it or if, but it's like that kind of style game where
Oh,
you
okay.
control Black Sad and solve a mystery and everything. Like, yeah, I've wanted to get that, but you can get it for super cheap too. I think it can go as low as like $5 now too.
Sweet.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
I've always heard of this title, but I've never seen like what I've always heard Black Sabbath. I never knew what it was about or anything like that. That is cool.
yeah, it is really cool. And right now, I know the physical version's out of print, and it costs quite a bit. But if Dark Horse still has the rights, which I believe they do, Dark
Yeah.
Horse is really good about cyclical reprints. So just hold out for a little while, keep checking, and eventually, if Dark Horse has it, it will get reprinted.
Yeah. Or you could do like Seth, and if you have a library card, you
Yeah,
get on
yeah,
Hoopla and
read it
read it
right
for
now on
free.
Hoopla. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I was very pleased to find it on Hoopla. I was actually the problem I had with it on Hoopla was that like the window that I was trying to view it on was too small. I had to keep zooming it in.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
but yeah, that was.
Yeah.
But that way, first world problem. I get to read a comic book for free. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I know. Hoopla was originally how I got to read the Incal because I've always wanted to read that one.
yeah,
And the Javier the Alejandro Jodorowsky with art by Mobius in there.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they have some of these comics like that because it's like, don't get me wrong. I love my superhero comics. I love my Marvel and DC, but you know me too. It's like I'm always trying to find, something else out there. Like I want to
Something.
see, yeah, I want to see what else we got. Give me every flavor of comic we can.
Well, I mean, yeah, you've got your comic book classics, like you said, your traditional superhero stuff, and you've got stuff like the Incal, Mouse, March, which John Lewis did, where that's art.
Oh
You know,
yeah, yeah,
that's more that goes beyond comics, and we're in the level of art now, or
yeah.
the level of art where our pinkies are turned up and we turn our noses at the lower level kind of like that's that's the big boy stuff there. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that wins awards and earns the respect for comic books because it's the hoity-toity kind of stuff. So yeah,
Exactly.
All right. So any other reviews you got for us? Is it time for effed up history?
It is time for effed up history, and yeah, saddle in, folks, because we gonna talk that we're gonna draw on this one for a little bit, and this is gonna
But
be
first,
Uncle
we gotta
Seth's
do says effed
effed up
history.
history.
All right, here we go.
All right, and so I've sourced this from a couple of places. There's a dude named Michael K. Vaughn on YouTube.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with him? Or,
I thought it was a different Michael Vaughn. So no, I'm not familiar with Michael K. Vaughn. No.
okay, yeah, but this dude is like he's very like he's one of the book people, but he does this is why I'm up here. Oh damn, V, thank you, brother, thank you.
Yep. On the other side
man.
of the world, 8-hour difference, but you
Dang.
know what? He is up to hear this. Let's go.
Wow, I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. But this fellow Michael K. Vaughn on YouTube, check him out because he does this thing called the Robert E. Howard Show from time to time, and actually goes over like good bits of history. He's very informative. Because believe it or not, this story of course, this is the title of tonight's dissertation. L. Sprague de Camp, the Frederick Wortham of Sword and Sorcery. A video essay from memory by Seth Manhammer, who I still probably need an adult tonight. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, where was I? What was I saying? This is off to a great start, Ray. What was I saying before I had to reintroduce it? Was talking about shit.
Obviously, you're just kind of in the preamble there.
Yeah. Anyway, so long story. We kind of have to start talking about like the origins of like fantasy publishing in this too. So there's like a little bit of a preamble with it. And really like the fantasy has always existed, in a various way, shape, or form, but it was viewed more as like a weird offshoot of science fiction, and largely regulated towards children's reading or children's literature, children's books, things like that. And books were also not necessarily like books weren't like you'd have like better editions of books for like, important stories that people wanted to keep. But there's also a lot of stories that just got printed on really cheap paper, pulpy stuff that like we don't call them the pulps, but they were in newspapers and, people bought them, that was how, that was their entertainment,
or
back.
magazines or whatever else.
Yeah, magazines, whatever else. But like really like the modern sword and sorcery starts around the 1800s with stuff like Edgar Rice Burroughs, John Carter, Mars, stuff like that. And it's like he writes his stuff, and then it's like you move like there's some other really notable guys in there too whose names really escape me because I should have wrote them down and took notes, but you're listening to me talk. But so yeah. But then you get into the Weird Tales crowd. Right, which is your Robert Howards and your H.P. Lovecrafts, your Clark Ashton Smiths, those kind of dudes. And I need to reiterate the idea of weird in the Weird Tales, because like this is a time when magazines were prevalent everywhere. There was a magazine for just about every genre that you could possibly imagine, being catered to. Romance stories, sports stories, it's like all kinds of just different kinds of genre fiction. So it's like you had to get really niche sometimes. And that was the point of the weird. And there was still like fantastical, knights in shining armor stories. But like what set like the weird and Weird Tales of Conan was that like his stories, there was always that undercurrent of the supernatural. Right. There was something lurking in the shadows of every Conan story, even if he fought it then or not, his world was not someplace that you enjoyed living in. And that was the weird part, because it was always unsettling. And or one of the reasons why that was included with that. And so
expanding on that, Conan was
please.
always the opinion of the reader because he was untrustworthy of magic. He was very skeptical of its beneficent uses. He didn't like wizards and witches and wherever else. So he very much had the will of the people and the mind of people. Like, I don't like this. I don't trust it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And that comes in that like that those particular tropes like start like their own like launch pad of different Conan pastiche characters that I'm going to talk about here in just a minute too. They started off other points of like Elric was based off of those points, like as the antithesis of that, to become its own thing. So like Conan was really the father of sword and sorcery. Robert E. Howard was the architect, and it's like a lot of those stories were proto, things. But sword and sorcery, so modern sword and sorcery comes from Edgar Rice Burroughs directly to Robert Howard, and a few of his contemporaries there. And after Robert Howard unfortunately commits suicide, that is in the late 30s, then his works there's still a couple of years of posthumous reprints, with the Weird Tales, because there's some of the stuff that he was still slated to be published and everything. But there's a period for about up until like the mid 40s where Howard's work is just not available, up until like the late 40s, early 50s, when Gnome Press releases. That the Gnome Press was like known for being one of the first book publishers to start publishing hardback fantasy. And
really?
and from the pulps, right? Because a lot of that stuff was just considered junk, right? It's but so they and it's like, and this is too, and it's like books started to become more democratized with like who could afford these nicer editions, and especially with book clubs and everything too. So it became more cost effective to print these, and but the problem with these Gnome Press Robert Howards was that they were edited and they were changed in some spots. So it's like they were the Weird Tales versions, but with another pass over them, so to speak. Yeah. Okay. So they were adulterated, and then those are the best that you can get up until the 60s and the 70s, when you got the Lancer paperbacks and those kind of things, right? So you and then that, and of course like that starts really the sword, and so we're going to come back to this part in a minute. But that kind of that leads to that avalanche of those like dime store sword and sorcery paperbacks of like, everybody trying to, have their 200-page sword and sorcery epic, with like, whatever on the cover, those books that we all love for various reasons. It's like,
Sure.
not that's what starts all of that. So going back to that, now that's what's still considered very cheap pulp fantasy because it was, the cheap paperbacks, right? Rarely does this stuff make it into hardback, unless it's like special editions or like reprints. But
Yeah.
but one of those main reasons was the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when that was originally published, Tolkien had published them, and then they languished in hardcover for over a decade. They were largely unread. It
Mhm.
wasn't until I believe the late or early 60s
Yeah.
when the paperback, when he finally reached a deal in the UK and the US to release paperback versions of the Lord of the Rings, that because Ace released bootleg versions already, and they saw how well they sold, so they're like, hold on, this a-hole is making, or these a-holes are making money off of our stuff.
Mhm.
And then Tolkien's like, fine, release it. Uh,
And of course, you had hippie counterculture kind of starting to be the uprising around the same time too. So it was like just a perfect union. So
yeah,
you had all
yeah,
this influence now of Tolkien on the hippie culture.
right. You have, so much of that, and of course, like hippie culture, leads into the 60s, and it's like kind of dies out in the 70s, and but it's still like very prevalent. Peace and love. But the Lord of the Rings technically never really dies from that
Nope.
point. It
Nope.
keeps growing and it keeps growing, and people start reading it more and more. It keeps getting reprinted. It keeps getting, and specifically Lord of the Rings, because once it hits a certain point, people start to want to read fantasy again.
Mhm.
And then there's this kind of gap that those cheap paperbacks filled, that people could start to check, even though it wasn't like this high fantasy like Lord of the Rings. It was something that they could reprint and make a cheap buck off of, right?
Sure.
While other writers started to write like more fantasy, because that Lord of the Rings significantly changed publishing to where publishers started to look for books that mimicked Lord of the Rings, and that if they didn't mimic Lord of the Rings, they had writers write them to mimic Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
That was part of the reason, and this is one of the reasons I'm going to revisit the Wheel of Time at some point, because originally the first book, whenever I was kind of interested in looking at that, like I read it and it felt like a pastiche of Lord of the Rings, and I didn't
Mm.
like that. Like it felt like, okay, wow, this is just like the same garbage. But apparently at some point Robert Jordan starts inverting some of these tropes. Like this is all on purpose. So it's like
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna check it out and give it another shot, because it's, why not? I'm reading a bunch of other stuff anyway. Uh
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So you've got the publishing world doing all of that, right? And so it's like, and you've got all kinds of you're basically employing all kinds of writers to write these fantasy stories, these epic science fiction, things like that. It's like that publishing has changed because of Lord of the Rings,
Sure.
and some of this fantasy stuff has been gobbled up, and reprinted. And some of these authors too are trying to get in and cash in on this glut that are making, like, the new way of making pulp books was like, like you'd have the one writer that would like take some of their 15 of their short stories and put a paperback out of it, right?
Yeah.
So like you've got like guys like that, and that's where a dude like Lynn Carter comes into this story. And you'll know Lynn Carter because of his comic book work,
Mhm.
and he'll be very widely known as an editor. But did you also know that he wrote several novels of a character called Thonagor, that is Conan, that is the cheapest dime store knockoff of Conan you can possibly imagine,
Yep.
right? And
Because
yeah.
because Thonagor's stories were adapted into Creatures on the Loose, which was a Marvel anthology.
Mhm.
So yep. But yeah, he
Yep.
was definitely Wish version of Conan, 100%.
Yeah. And several Conan stories got retrofitted onto Thonagor stories.
Yep.
And yeah, we're gonna kind of excuse me, I gotta cough. But yeah, they got grafted onto Thonagor stories and changed
Yep.
around because
Yep.
Lynn Carter teamed up with was ultimately recruited by L. Sprague de Camp, who was a science fiction writer in the science fiction boom of the 50s and 60s and the pulps. But the thing is, though, about old Mr. DeCamp here, he was not necessarily known as a good science fiction writer. He was actually kind of like mediocre at best. I believe there was like one book, and I can't remember the title of it, but he had one book that was a relative success that allowed him far more access to any other publishing and any other thing any publisher should have let him anywhere near.
Yeah. And the rest was garbage.
Yeah. And so he is floundering in this new world where genre fiction has now become fantasy, right?
Mhm.
Like he cannot, his stories are no longer selling. He's no longer making the money. So he goes back to the well of stuff that hasn't been in print for decades or longer, and finds Robert Howard's Conan stuff and decides that he is going to become the new editor and add pastiche to it, along with Mr. Lynn Carter, who actually, I was actually reading, there is some debate onto whether or not how much influence Lynn Carter had directly with the supposed contributions he had with DeCamp, because a lot of DeCamp's work, people actually, some people even suspect that his wife might have written a lot of it.
Really?
Yeah, there is a lot of speculation and wonderment going along with this. If you really get into the deep dive of like Robert Howard, right, like scholarship, it is a deep hole. It is
Yeah.
But so
it's a rabbit hole on a rabbit hole. That's for sure.
it's a rabbit hole of a rabbit hole. And that's also going back to the main point. That's also not to say that Lynn Carter did not, write his own Conan stories. He absolutely did. But the ones that Lynn Carter can supposedly contributed with Elsbrag DeCamp may not have necessarily have any Lynn Carter's influence at all. Lynn Carter's still got a hand in this nonsense, but he's not necessarily, he's not the one that went back to a pulp character that he didn't write and decided that he was going to piggyback on to save his own damn career. Which is exactly what Elsbrag DeCamp's plan was. And so he took these Conan stories, the original or the Weird Tales versions, and changed them up, or altered what he thought were problematic things, or tried to insert jokes necessarily where there shouldn't have been jokes. The stories were not pure Robert Howard. And excuse me. Oh wow, I made that one a little stronger too.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Woo, yeah, well, I can dilute that a little more if I need to. Dilute. I was saying dilutes. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Elsbrag DeCamp starts to release his and this is the books that we know that we start to know a literary Conan from, but it is still not the pure Conan that we will still wait a bit longer to get.
Yep.
Now, when these paperbacks also correspond with the Marvel Comics, versions of Conan, which I'm gonna say were kept Conan relevant for the longest time too.
Yeah.
Roy Thomas should be credited with a lot of that, and he did adapt some Elsbrag DeCamp stories, some of the Lynn Carter stories. Oh, excuse me, from the books that they did. And they were okay. I think they probably made a little better because Roy Thomas adapted them, but you can still tell that they weren't like, and you've read them too because they were all in like the Savage Sword. Yeah, if you've read any Conan, you've read any of those, a number of those stories. But going back to those two, that there was a lot of speculation about them bickering behind the scenes too between Carter and DeCamp, especially when it came to DeCamp's wife. And so eventually Lynn Carter splits and goes off. And at one point, Elsbrag DeCamp tries to recruit another writer to take over Solomon Kane in the same way that he did with Conan. And take like fragments and elaborate on them and make pastiche, right? And of course, and these books sell hand over fist. The Conan books do, because great covers, and it's like, it's the best we had at the time. So we had to deal with it. But at one point, they stop having Robert Howard material at all to use. So Pastiche enters the picture. Have you ever heard of this fella named Carl Edward Wagner?
I have not. No.
Okay, so he is a guy that I've just recently become knowledgeable of, because in the 70s he tried to release what he wanted, or what he called the authorized Conan. And this was in competition with L. Sprague de Camp's books, right? The ones that he was publishing. And so, Carl Edward Wagner, his main, he was also known as a pulp editor. He was a big he edited several large horror anthologies, very well regarded in the publishing world for both his written stories and his editing work. His pulp character that he created was this dude named Cain, and it's biblical Cain, right? But yeah, and the thing is, Cain, of course, Cain's immortal, right? So he's lived so many times, like the earth has basically been around so many times that he's watched civilizations fall over and over and over and over and over and over again. So he's been there, seen it all, done it all, whatever. So he is to the point now where Cain is no longer good. Cain is no longer bad. Cain is just solely self-servient. And, if he needs money at the time, he'll take a job, he'll do it. He might screw you over in the process. He like a dark dude, right? Yes. And so it's like those stories are kind of interesting, but that was his version, of Conan, as opposed to, shitty Thanagor that Lynn Carter had. But Carl Edward Wagner, he wanted to publish his authorized versions of Conan. He was trying to get 5 or 6 volumes published, only ended up with 3, right? Because of a lawsuit that L. Sprague de Camp put against the guy that had the Conan. He had some kind of Conan legal rights to some of the stories, but yeah, it was a weird thing. But anyway, you can actually find, they're still really collectible. The Carl Edward Wagner edited Robert Howard's. They were the first one was Hour of the Dragon, the full novel. The other one was the second one was People of the Black Circle, and a bunch of other short stories. And the third one was Red Nails, and and a couple of other stories. Yeah, oh yeah. And they had great covers on them too. And it's like you can find them on eBay, those specific editions, for about $30 a pop, I believe. But yeah, in the introduction to the first volume of Hour of the Dragon, Carl Edward Wagner basically, he doesn't name him, but he calls out people who basically just try and tack on the legacy of other writers and try and add their flavor to it. And even says himself, he's like, I've written Conan pastiche before, but my Conan pastiche doesn't make it Robert E. Howard's writing. Nothing will be Robert E. Howard's writing except for Robert E. Howard's writing. No matter what you interject to it. Yeah, and it's like, and he's absolutely right. Because what other writer would we just decide that you could start to edit and piggyback off of indefinitely? To make it's like what if somebody did that to Tolkien? That would never fly. And that was also part of the deal that happened. L. Sprague de Camp was also part of the reason why Conan's or Robert E. Howard's characters got licensed out all to hell so hard. So it's like every character that Robert E. Howard created got licensed out for a time. So Conan.
Sorry to interrupt here. No. Of course, I gotta get to a couple of comments real quick here from our buddies here. Bradley's in here. Mr. Bradley, good to see you, sir.
Oh, the Oblivion remaster. Yes. Oh man, I'm gonna go play that after the show. That's gonna be my weekend wind down. Yeah, I've been loving that. It looks so good. It's so much fun.
Nice. I've heard good things here. And then Mr. Martine is
What's
back
up?
Here. Good to see you. He didn't get his notification. Come on, YouTube. What is going on?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, Como Estan to you. Good to see you, sir. And he says what he thinks. We say Conan, and he thinks Brigitte
Nielsen. Oh, yeah. No, I was actually thinking, I was trying to remember earlier today what my first memory of Conan was. And I remember, I think that it was the TBS constantly airing Red Sonja.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, and so it's like, I'm seeing Brigitte Nielsen and then Schwarzenegger running around with her, but he's Conan, but he's not, but it's like, I remember knowing that he was supposed to be Conan.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't.
Conan, he's kind of Conan.
Yeah. He was originally supposed to be Conan.
He absolutely was. Yes, he was. Yeah. Now, of course, Dad was way into the Conan books and I think I had a couple of exposure to the comics. So by the time 82 rolled around and Conan the Barbarian, the movie was out, I'm like, I want to see that. Of course, I was like barely 8 years old, so one of my earliest memories of seeing R-rated films was a double feature at the drive-in. And it was Conan the Barbarian in 48 hours, and we stayed for both films. So I got like violence, nudity, blood, all kinds of stuff, like in my first R-rated movies.
You got John Milnes and Walter Hill in one night as a child. Oh wow, no wonder you're the way you are. But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
And I'm a big Walter Hill fan, so there you go.
Oh man. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Oh, if he says about the Oblivion remake, we get horse armor in 4K.
Yeah. Okay, next week, V, ask me about my rant on the Oblivion horse armor because it may surprise you. Because I'm actually thinking I will actually defend it this time as a well-intentioned jab at the fans on Bethesda's part.
But anyway, I've interrupted you enough, sir. Please continue.
Oh no, okay. So anyway, I was talking about Carl Edward Wagner's authorized editions.
Yeah,
and slams the shit out of Elsprog de Camp. Because and basically, like, Elsprog de Camp sues to get the rest of the stories not published. So of course, then there's that glut of, Conan pastiche for the longest time, right? And it's like, and some of it's good, some of it's not so good. Carl Edward Wagner wrote one of them. Lynn Carter and Elsprog de Camp. Of course, they've written a couple of the anthologies and everything, and it's like, they're just not, they're not Robert Howard, and so a lot of people try and, skip to the end. Didn't want to do that. Still got one more section because we haven't even got to the first time that we actually got original Robert E. Howard complete Robert Howard texts.
Exactly.
And yeah, I believe the original publisher was was called Fantasy Workshops, which published 2 volumes of the original unaltered Robert E. Howard Conan text for the first time ever, as like the final drafts, as said before editorial touch, before Weird Tale, like the drafts that Robert Howard had. That was they published that,
the original stuff. Yes.
Yeah, which became the complete Chronicles of Conan book, the big leather bound volume that you can see like there. And then those texts were all later, I believe that would have had to have been the source for the 3-volume Del Rey sets, which also contain the story fragments that Robert Howard had of Conan, various like other essays, like various other paraphernalia that went along with it.
Yeah.
Because after Howard had unfortunately passed away, he kept drafts and final edits of his work in a steamer trunk that his father finally went through, and there was a lot of his work that was in there that later got published posthumously. But back to the Del Rey editions. Those are super nice editions, and probably the best and cheapest way that you can read Conan right now. I know you can listen to the Conan. There's audiobooks of Conan all over YouTube if you want to check them out and listen to them too. But
and on Audible as well.
Yeah. I think they're part of the membership too for Audible. But finally, it's not until the mid 2000s that we have widespread access to unadulterated Robert E. Howard Conan stories as they were meant to be read. Originally, was somebody who people have for decades had cited as an influence on their love for sword and sorcery and fantasy. Robert Howard, that they never truly got to read what he originally wrote unless you were aware at a very specific window of time, a few times in a very widespread span of existence. And Elsprog de Camp to decide that he was going to try and bolster his career, and he was successful at it. You can't say that he wasn't. Because those Conan paperbacks that he rode the hell out of were were still hits, because again, that was the best we had. But screw him for editing these stories all to hell. Like if you wanted to do something with it, publish, 5 or 6 volumes of the original stuff, then you're pastiche.
Yeah.
Pastiche is fine. Everybody can deal with a pastiche from time to time. It's like, we all want to know our Conan stories. Everybody's got their own take. I love John Hawking's take on Conan. His City of the Dead, the new one of the new hardbacks. Like,
Okay.
he tells a Conan story, but he doesn't try and be Robert Howard. There's 2 stories in there, and they're so good. They really are. And yeah, it's like they definitely give off the good Conan vibes. But yeah, El Spragdicamp trying to be Robert Howard and trying to piggyback off of a writer that he could never touch. Like and
that dude, man.
Yeah, and people try and defend him by saying that it's like he kept Conan relevant. He kept Conan, alive during this time. And I'm gonna push back and say no, because okay. He technically did, yes, but without his interference, we would still be talking about Conan right now.
Yeah.
And that is because like you're talking about those Weird Tales contemporaries, like how where's your HP Lovecraft stuff that
exactly.
his work is surviving now. He's one of the contemporary. We're still talking about Clark Ashton Smith. We're still talking about Paul Anderson, dudes like that. We're still talking about them to this day. Robert Howard was amongst those people. And it's El Spragdicamp, and he made these Conan stories so bad towards the end of that he basically killed the line of Conan for like what the late 80s into the mid 90s. We had Conan the Adventurer and maybe a couple of mid pastiche novels, but Conan was dying. Conan, because Conan was turning into like the thug barbarian. Conan wasn't turning into the thoughtful like commentary on barbarianism versus civilization, because El Spragdicamp made him a buffoon.
Well, the fact that Conan was a very early feminist, for God's sakes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was one thing that kind of pissed me off. I was reading comments about too. Like somebody was like, "Yeah, Conan forced himself on women sometimes," and it's like, like the Frost Giant's daughter was kind of like she was weaving the spell that was kind of like getting everybody riled up. She just didn't expect Conan to be Conan, So it's like, and he's never forced himself like in Robert Howard stories. No, he never did. He was always women had power was what was respected in the world of Robert E. Howard's Conan. And women wielded it just as fiercely as men in any way that they could. And that was, very early proto-feminist was Robert E. Howard. And El Spragdicamp made a mockery of it, added jokes to things that he didn't understand, altered things, made stories that were, almost completely nonsensical with this Thanagor crap that Lynn Carter tried to retool with. I can't remember El Spragdicamp's sorcery character that he tried to fit in, but it just never worked.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like there are fantasy fans of a certain age and certain generations where the name El Spragdicamp is basically like you're saying Satan himself. I mean, it's really just somebody who almost killed the franchise because just how much he bastardized it and just completely changed it to what it actually was. So F a bunch of El Spragdicamp, that's for sure.
Yeah. And just as a little postscript, one thing that, again, to shout out to Roy Thomas, who kept the Conan flag flying for as long as he could with Marvel Comics. I more than anything, I think that was what kept Conan relevant for so long. Was the Marvel Comics. And it's like after a while, they did start to change, and it's like they got worse as they went on and things like that.
Mox and Mika are doing stuff.
Yeah, they have this weird friendship, man. They do. They love each other. Yeah, it's like I've seen her just rub all over his face and everything, and he just sits there and takes it like, okay, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like she's just a big shithead and bothering the crap out of him, and he's taking it. And then they play like that, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And that's my dogs, my dog and my cat.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
A couple more comments here. Of course, V is where. It says, take him to school, Seth. Tell him.
Thank you,
Yeah.
V.
Tell these young folks here. Yeah, El Sprague de Camp is he's horrible here.
Yeah.
Martin says that the thing about Germany these days was no guns, no soldiers, but barbarians and bare breasts. Great for kids.
Yes. And oh man, okay, yeah. So another thing I heard about Germany too that I would love to get corroboration on. Y'all's big fans of Shadowrun, I've heard. Cause that is the best stuff to get. Yeah. Apparently, like Catalyst Games over in the States, like they keep screwing up Shadowrun and never update the rule books and everything. The German editions, though, updated like clockwork. Oh
Interesting.
yeah. Yeah, it's weird.
We're making friends in the chat here because Martin has been introduced to
Yes.
V.
Yes.
There we go.
Oh man.
The coasts are meeting here. Martin saying that Conan was the best we've ever had, and it doesn't get any better than that. Yeah, as long as you stick with the original Harvey Howard stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And
some of the pastiche is okay, but yeah.
Sure, yeah. Bradley makes good points. Says he didn't consider Conan a feminist, more like he treats everyone equally. So yeah, he's very much like Conan's very much a meritocracy sort of thing like that. It's like if you prove your worth, you're cool with him. It doesn't really matter who you are.
Yeah, Bradley is dead ass on. Yeah, Bradley is dead ass on. Yeah. Yeah, I think if you even suggested the idea, he's got a point because I think if you even suggested the idea to Conan that he was a feminist, he would scoff at it.
He may decapitate me for saying such a thing.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so, unless someone treats him like crap and tries to kill him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you've wronged Conan or given him a reason to hate you, then yes, you are on his list. But if you're on his side and you've proven yourself worthy, then you're A-okay here. So
yes.
Oh, and confirming there, Martin says, "Oh yes, Shadowrun has made his youth together with a thing we call the Black Eye."
Yes.
Oh, love it. I love it.
That is amazing. Yes.
I love our international friends here. I love hearing these different takes from other sides of the world here and how geekdom works over there. So
okay. I'm gonna be totally honest and date myself here a little bit because I embarrassed myself in middle school one time because so like, and of course there's me like video game nerd, right? Was playing Final Fantasy and I'm reading Game Pro and they're talking about like Dragon Quest where it's like over in Japan they don't have like days of work when Dragon Quest releases, right? And like,
oh yeah,
so it's like I'm reading all this shit about like a foreign country. And so like we get like this Japanese exchange student who's like this like just this like schoolgirl lady. And it's like and we get to ask her questions one day about like what life's like in Japan. So it's like, of course, I'm a dork. I'm going to ask her about Dragon Quest, right? And she just looks at me like, I have no idea what you're talking about. and of course, this is like in front of everybody, like that, like my entire class. And it's like, oh shit, I'm going to sit down and like, I'm just not going to try and pee myself right now. But this is vindication. So thank you for getting enthused over Shadowrun and not being like, what the fuck? Yeah, excuse me. Sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
It's after 9:30 F-bomb, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. Well, yeah, I think we're past the point of stuff here. So we're the not ready for primetime players here. There we go.
Exactly.
Hey, you wouldn't be the first person to drop an F-bomb the show, and you won't be the last. There you go.
That is true, but I have done it before on accident. And
but you also, again, weren't the first person to do that one either. So there you go.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
You're just the second and the third person. That's okay.
I am just so glad I never did it at the TV station.
I know, right? That's where we're gonna really get in trouble. Yeah, I know that I was paranoid for years. Like one of these days, I'm gonna drop the wrong word, and I never did, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't like one of our former weather announcers who he didn't do this when he was working for us, but when he moved to another station in another city, he dropped a slightly racially tinged comment, and it was kind of one of those things like he didn't know he was saying it when he said it, but then when they replayed it for him, he's like, "Oh God!" And he got fired. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's also kind of a jerk. So he kind of had it coming. So
Yeah.
karma's real, folks. Karma is
Yeah.
real. Well, I love me some Seth's effed up history, especially when you're going to incorporate some Conan stuff in there. But yeah,
Well, thank you.
There's a long line of old school fantasy fans that hate El Sprog de Camp and what he did.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it was because you couldn't get anywhere near original Robert Howard Conan writings, unless you had Weird Tales back issues, which most people didn't,
no,
and
yeah.
Yeah.
It took decades for the proper original versions of those stories to finally come out. So
Yeah.
and then finally, of course, that was it Tor or whatever else who did those? And then, of course, they've done like Solomon Kane and
Right. Yeah. They've done the whole Robert E. Howard library, I believe.
Yeah,
Like most of. There's some of his short stories that didn't fit into a category, like I think some of his boxing stories they didn't publish, or like stuff like that, or like some of his sailing stories, or but yeah, it's like El Borak, Cull was another one, Solomon Kane,
Bronmont
there was
Thorne.
Brad McThorne. There were 2 horror volumes, his Conan stuff, but yeah, it's like, and I think a lot they're still pretty easily available in physical form.
Sure.
Yeah, and but you can also check them out in various other ways too, like through Hoopla or Audible for free right now, or anything. It might be Kindle Unlimited too,
I think
something
so.
like that. Yeah, but
Martin saying the Shadowrun had it all. It was myth on the schoolyard, and you couldn't buy them rules in Germany. So,
oh man, dude, Shadow. Yeah, it's like I want to establish a Shadow, like out of our podcasting friends. Like it is my dream someday to actually have us like a Shadowrun game. That I'm trying to.
That. If you wanted a copy, you needed to go to that weird 60-year-old hippie who sold them under the hands, or under the table there. If you finally had a copy, you still needed proof you were worthy to play it with actual folks. Wow. So it was the game you needed cred on cred to play. Holy crap.
Yes. All right. So you'll appreciate this. Then I have specific Shadowrun dice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, these are called they were called Chummer. I'm just gonna leave them in the tin, but they're called Chummers, right? And so in Shadowrun, 5s and 6s are hits, right? And 1s are misses, right? And like in the mids is whatever else. So it's like you can see where they're painted specifically.
That's sweet.
Yeah, the Shadowrun version. So it's like, it's a 6 die game, but or a D6 game. But yeah, I've got 2 tins of those, and it's like I want to use them so bad.
Yeah, we're just gonna get international Shadowrun game with the 2 of us, and apparently Martin's gonna be joining us, and anybody else is invited to as well.
Oh hell yeah, because it's like, oh man, because I'm gonna. The Shadowrun has different settings, right? Like Berlin and Seattle, and like different places, right? Well, it's like I've got a campaign in mind. What I'm more impressed with isn't the dice; it's the fact that Seth next. Sometimes whenever I'm doing stuff up here on my computer, I actually kind of like get about and like play with them, and like it's like they're my fidget toy since I can't actually use them in game. But but no, like I want it. There's a very famous Shadowrun module called Bug City, and I'm modifying. I have a modified version of that, basing it in Louisville around Derby time. And where in Churchill Downs they no longer run thoroughbreds, they no longer run horses, they run unicorns. And it's it's a heist job marked with Bug City, because if you don't know much about Louisville or the state of Kentucky, it sits atop the largest unmapped cave system, I believe, in the world. If it's not the world, it's at least the United States. But sits atop the largest. Sinkholes happen.
Sinkholes happen a lot, and if you got basically some subterranean dwellers who know the areas better, then you can pretty much get anywhere you want in the city.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Volunteers play anytime.
Yes. Yes. Oh man.
So we're getting our Shadowrun party together here.
Yes. What's on the
Oh, what's on Seth's
Oh
table?
man.
Yes.
Shoo. Okay, so right now I got a bottle of Woodford Reserve sponsored by Mr. Bueller over here. He left that as a present for WrestleMania.
I drank the majority of that bottle, but yeah, you got the other. I drank 2/3 that. You got the other third.
Yeah, I have my my glass that I think I might be done for the night. After I polish this one off, I have the rest of my chaser. Okay, or the rest of my mixer, so
Yeah,
to
yeah.
speak. Speaking of, and segue or preview for next week's episode, where we
Yes.
talk about our favorite Always Sunny episodes, where and
Mhm.
just made me think of Charlie and Frank going on the Christian cruise, talking about mixers, and it's like
Mhm.
people just drink mixer, what? Like when they see the orange
We
juice,
see some orange juice. Oh, is this
yeah,
mixer? No, it's actually people just drink
yeah,
that stuff. Yeah.
fidget pen.
There you go.
Yeah, that's just I click that from time to time. Of course, I already showed my chummer dice, right.
Oh yeah, there you go. You go.
And the empty bottle from my previous beverage at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I also have a blue Yeti microphone that I cannot move at the moment because it's wrapped up in a bunch of cords, and I might like knock my camera over. Yeah, my cable management is not the best in the world.
That's okay. Oh, and Bradley contributes rum
Ham.
So Martin says that you gift one of the handcraft dice sets we do here as a sidekick to our Xenomorphs, teamed up with a toy market called Marcos. I'm gonna butcher that last name, so I won't even try it there.
Yeah.
Here and sits to do all things. Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah.
Yep, get a fresh bottle and figure out a date to play. Yep, that's a good idea.
Oh gosh, yeah, that'd be killer.
Best segment of the night there, says G of what's on Seth's table there.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've toyed around with that and had some requests of like, like what's behind us, kind of shit. Like you're showing off our collections and stuff like that. And of course, you got all your movies behind you and stuff like that. It's like, yeah.
We'll have to do that sometime. Yeah, I'd like to.
We're really bored for a topic. We're like, okay, we're just gonna do what's behind us.
Yeah. What's really sad though is sometimes I do watch those videos on YouTube. Like there's like a couple of video game stores that I subscribe to. They're like, look at this haul we got, and it's like, like here's like Legend of Zelda, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, wow, okay, I'm watching this for a minute.
Dude, I've watched the same thing where the guys got like wrestling toys or whatever else. Is like you got rooms filled with stuff. Josh was showing me videos of a dude he's following now because Josh is a big Jurassic Park dude. Josh works in the store with me, by the way.
Yeah.
He's a big Jurassic Park guy. So there was a guy that was like going through his basement showing off his Jurassic Park collection. If you're like, do you have this? He's like, oh yeah, I got this here. Do you have this? Oh yeah, here's this over here. So those are big videos. People just have like big collection of stuff. People just like they want to see them.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm down with that. I'm totally down with that.
I am too. Yeah, you do have an impressive collection of G.I. Joe classifieds back there too. I do gotta say.
I do have many.
Yeah. They're still making those, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. I've got a couple of recent ones here. Like I got the newer Storm Shadow here. I got him when I was in Chicago.
I like him, yeah.
Yeah, he's a fairly new one here. Of course, you got Doc. Yeah, Doc's fairly. I got him a couple of months ago here. But the one I was really happy I've been looking for a while here was the Tiger Force Duke that came with a Tiger Force Ram as the motorcycle.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they've done. I used to love that. I had the toy version of that, that's the toy, or the OG toy version of that as a kid, and I loved it.
I love the Tiger Force and the Python Patrol stuff. I love that stuff. They've done two different Rams because they also did Breaker on the traditional green Ram. So you got the regular.
I might have had that one then, yeah.
Yeah, so they've done that one, a classified, and they've also done Baroness with a motorcycle, but it's not the Ram; it's a different motorcycle. So they've basically done like 3 different motorcycle figures. So
yeah, have they done Serpentor on his air chariot yet?
Yep, he was a Comic-Con exclusive from 2 years ago, so there is a nice deluxe version of him around there, but he's hard to find, and when you do find him, he's at least $200 on the low end.
Oh yeah.
Same with Dr. Mindbender. Dr. Mindbender is another deluxe Comic-Con exclusive. Same deal. You can find him. He's pricey.
Dang.
Let's see. Martin's asking, what have we heard about the Black Eye? It's a cool system. It's actually the most complex and longest lasting world building game going on.
No, I've not heard about this.
I
I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to dig into it a little bit.
Yeah, we may need to have Martin on here to inform us about this here. So,
Yeah.
very detailed though. Loves long storytelling. Yeah, that's true. I do love a good long storytelling campaign. I was in a D&D campaign that lasted for a good 5 years. So,
oh wow.
And then Bradley's asking, which are my G.I. Joe and Cobra favorite characters? You know what? I've always been a big Stalker fan. I've always had a lot of respect for him. And as much, it's weird. I have 3 different Duke figures. I got the original Classified there, and then the OG, Real American Hero Duke here, and then Tiger Force Duke. But I like Flint. Flint's always been my guy.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, the ninjas are always cool too. As the bad guys go, I've always loved the look of the Crimson Guardsmen and the Iron Grenadiers as like the foot soldier kind of guys. But I've always been a big Dreadnoks guy.
Oh yeah, dude. Zartan's one of my dudes. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
This year's San Diego Comic-Con, there are going to be 2 different waves. Super 7 is doing like the 7 or the 3 3/4 inch versions, and then I don't know if either they're doing the Ultimates or somebody else is doing the Classifieds, but we're getting Cold Slither 4-packs.
Cold Slither.
This is the year of Cold Slither because not only are we getting those 2 4-packs, but there's some metal band out there who haven't identified themselves as the members, but they did a new version of the Cold Slither song. It's an officially licensed version, not like we're just some indie band doing the cover. Like they got the behind this one here, and so it's kind of like a 2025. Like it still has the melody and the lyrics, but like it has a little bit more of a feel of a modern day metal song.
Yeah. Is this on like Spotify or whatever?
The band's called Cold Slither, and so it's a remake of the original Cold Slither. So
yes, yeah, I'm here for it.
A band of vipers just playing a tune.
Yeah.
Let's see here. 2 DR titles and my wife's.
Dr. Doom and the other Dr. Mindbender. Yes.
So you're a doctor twice over. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Dr. Doom and Dr. Mindbender.
I gotta say, probably 2 of my favorite Joes. Like Beachhead is probably one of my favorite good guys.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, just because I love his cranky ass. Mm-hmm. And then I'm a big Firefly fan. The Saboteur, the Cobra Saboteur.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, just because it's like he always blows himself up or does something kind of stupid, like he's not inept. He's just like got a streak of bad luck.
There we go. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're just gonna have to do a live role playing episode. That's
we'll have at some point. I'll start building the game then for real. Yeah.
I'll say a very special episode of the Fanatic Forum where we do some kind of live role playing. If we do Shadowrun, that's tight. But yeah, we'll get a party of people together here. We'll get an international event going on here. If we could get,
we'll have to do a session 0, like a beginner's box run. It's only like a couple hours at first.
Yeah,
of course. So something like that.
We can stagger this out here, but yeah, we can get an international game of Shadowrun going here. We get V and Martin. Anybody else wants to pop
I
in
bet
here?
Bill probably be in on this too. Yeah,
I bet you're right.
Yeah,
this is gonna be fun. All right, we got some future episode shit going on here. I like this one. and Martin says, "Yeah, we'll nail that down."
Yeah. All right, yeah.
Dr. Mountain
Doom.
Oh, well, I'm getting hungry and I've got to pee. So I guess that means it's the end of the episode here.
All right, yeah. You go. Yeah, I don't know why I haven't popped the seal yet on my bladder.
Well,
so
I'm 2 beers deep here. So,
oh yeah. Oh man. Yeah, we got to let George go.
Oh, but anyway, thank you guys. Excellent episode here tonight. I love when we get off on tangents and go longer. Rather, we are nearly at 2 hours here, so that may be a
Yeah.
record. I believe so.
Yeah, this is one of our longer shows. Yeah, but thank y'all for letting me give my little spiel about El Spragg Camp there, and you know, I tried to riff it from memory, and I feel like I conveyed all my points, so I'm pretty
I
pleased
believe
with
you did
myself,
very
so,
well.
yeah.
So yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
thank
Here,
you.
Martin says beer is fluid bread. Yes, it is. It's the carb you can drink. Yes.
Exactly.
V, have a lovely
V,
night.
thank you, sir.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Martin. You only have you came
But
in
you
on the
can
last.
rewind and start from the beginning, and
Yeah.
yeah.
It's the show that never
Never
ends.
ends.
I want to get sued though by PBS, so we probably should stop saying that. So.
Yeah, true.
Oh, well, as we tease, talking just a little bit here as we were rattling on about other things. Next week, we've already got our subject planned here because we're going to talk our favorite episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, seeing as we now know that July 9th is season 17.
Yes.
Can't
Finally.
wait. Yep, and our first episode begins with the other half of the Abbott Elementary crossover episode, which I'm looking forward to. So, because the first Abbott Elementary crossover was great, it was from the Abbott Elementary point of view. This one will be from the Sunny Guys point of view here. So,
Right.
can't wait here. So, anyway, thank you all once again. Thank you, Bradley, V, Martin, Bill, everybody who tuned in and commented on here. We love having y'all in here. We love that, this is the place for geeks. And
yes,
we all
thank y'all so much for hanging.
Yes, we will talk shit here. Oh, and here we go. Martin says he wants to rewatch. He wants to see our opinions on WrestleMania. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go.
Literally the beginning of the show.
Yep.
There you go. That's the first 40 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
Whatever. So anyway, so love you, brother. Always good hanging out with you, sir.
Yes. Thank you. It's been a great Friday evening chat. I love it.
Yes, sir. Well, you all have yourselves a wonderful evening, and we will see you guys next time on the Fanatic Forum. In the meantime, we'll leave you with a message from our friends from Comic Books for Kids. So otherwise, you all have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
My name is Mark Weiss, and I am the founder and president of an organization called Comic Books for Kids. 6 years ago this month, we embarked on a journey of passion and heart. Our goal was to make a difference for children in hospitals and cancer centers. Little could we have ever imagined the response we have now. Starting with just hopes and dreams, we had no money for our mission. We had no product to give to the hospitals, and we had only called a couple hospitals and asked them, if we were to provide you with comic books, would you be interested? And they said yes. So we embarked on a 1-year journey to make a difference for these kids. We realized that even though we can't take away the reason these children are in hospitals, we can perhaps, while they are there, let them fly like a superhero, be princes and princesses, and embark on a mystical and magical journey to take them away from where they are in that hospital bed. Today, and thanks to your support, we are thrilled to say that we are now the largest charity in the U.S., supporting well over 200 hospitals in all 50 states for not only comic books, but for other pop culture items like Funko Pops, action figures, coloring books, Spanish bilingual items, backpacks, and more. When we received materials that were inappropriate for the young ones, we started a sister charity called Comic Book for Troops, and overnight, we became the largest charity in the U.S. for these same items to all branches of the military. We want to thank our friends for providing us their support and for allowing us the means to make so many happy with their gracious give to us.